Yeah, hello guys, how are you all? Just 1 second, let me just open this thing. Just give me 1 second. All right, so yeah, hi guys, good evening to all of you. Uh, Gaddi, Aravind, in the yesterday session only, we have discussed these things that how you can basically read a CSV with respect to pandas. Okay, so we have like already discussed these things. Okay, so what today we'll be going to do, guys? Today, like, we'll be going to understand the data visualization and the little bit of the pandas part we'll be even going to understand. All right. So my voice is clearly audible, right? Is there any lag or like is my voice breaking? Are you able to see me clearly? The screen is all good. So can I just get a quick confirmation, guys? Okay. So what we'll be going to do over here, we'll be just going to create a new notebook by just clicking on the new notebook. Okay, guys. Thank you. So this is basically the new notebook, and simply we'll be just going to import pandas as PD. And over here right now we'll be not going to import anything. So what we'll be going to do today is we'll be going to learn data analysis and we'll be just going to learn about data visualization in today's session. So for that, what we'll be going to do, we'll be going to get one CSV file. Let's just say if I basically have to work on some kind of a project, right? And but I don't have the data set because that is the like major problem. If you basically want to work on some kind of a data set, if you basically want to work on some kind of a project, but if you don't have that particular data set, so it will be a little bit problem for you for writing the code, how to do the analysis and all. So from Kaggle, you can basically easily get the data set, whether the data set is in audio, whether the data set basically is in CSV, whether the data set is in basically, let us just say, video. So let me just show you all of these things that how you can basically get the data set. So let us just say today we'll be just going to work on something that's going to be your census income data set. Okay, I think this is lagging system today. Census income. So this is the dataset that we'll be going to work with. So I have simply downloaded it and I'll be just going to click over here and just give me 1 second. There are like thing other notebooks also which are running. So let me just close it and connect it again and let's just try to import the pandas again. All right. So over here I'll be simply going to upload this thing, the zip file that we have basically downloaded from here. Now I have this zip file. Now if you guys remember in the yesterday session I have told you how to unzip it. So can anyone tell me the command to for unzip? How I have to do, because you might have downloaded it in HTML. That's why it is showing you in HTML file. Try to download it the way I have basically did. So guys, tell me if I have this zip file, how I'll be going to unzip it. Okay, all right. Prabhas, right. We simply going to write unzip and the file name will be just going to write over here. And let's just refresh it. So you'll be able to see that this is your data set. Okay. Now if I have like imported pandas as PD, just tell me one thing guys, how I can basically read a particular CSV now. How I can read a CSV using pandas, the CSV that I have just extracted from the zip file, read CSV. All right. So PD dot read CSV and the path of the CSV, and let's just store it in DF. That is your short form of data frame. Now if I'll be just going to call this DF, now tell me one thing also guys, that now it is basically showing me all the rows. But what if I just want to look into the starting 3 rows? How I can do this thing? Dot head 3. Okay, let's just try this one. Dot head 3. So yes, it is basically showing me the starting 3 rows. Now there are some other functions also. Let's just say there is one thing called data dot shape. So what is basically this thing? So in interview also, the interviewer have asked the same question to the candidate, that if we'll be going to use shape with respect to pandas, do we have to close it with brackets or not? So the answer is there is no need for mentioning the brackets in shape. This is like an interview question only. So this is basically nothing. This is basically showing you the rows and this is basically showing you the columns. Now let us say if I basically have to present it in such a way where I can basically tell that how many columns it have and how many rows basically it have. Basically right now, if you are getting this kind of output, for sure, if you will be going to show this output to anyone, the other person will not be able to understand that what kind of data it is. DF is nothing but it is just a variable in which we have stored your CSV. Just see this thing. It is just a simple variable. If you want, you can even write your name in place of DF. Cool. Now, so how I can basically make it more understandable? Let's just say print uh, number of rows in data frame now. Just see this thing. Okay, comma, I forgot to add comma. Now just see this thing. Now if someone will going to read this thing, he or she will be easily able to understand, okay, this much of rows I basically have in my data set and this much of columns I basically have over here. Now this is the shape. Now let us just test whether we have a duplicates or not. So right now it is showing 32573 and over here it was 32561. That means there are some duplicates. Okay, so what we'll be going to do to make a changes permanent? True. All right. Now, just see this thing, guys. Now, this is the like this thing, my after dropping all the duplicates, this is how what this will basically going to look like. Cool. Now, just give me 1 second. Now, let us just say if let us just say how we basically used to get this data set, because in the backend there are like some people who are basically manually entering this data set. But let us just say there are some columns. Let us just consider a salary column or a age column. But by mistake, by a human error, someone basically forgot to mention the value. So it will basically going to show you none. All right. So how to check whether there are none values in data frame or not? So that is like df dot is any. Now it will basically going to tell you that these are your like false is there. That means there is no none value. If it going to show you true, that means there is a none value. But can anyone tell me if I have to check the none value per column, like column wise, I basically have to check the none value. So how I'll be able to do it? If I have to check the none values per column, that in this column I have this much of none value and in this column I have this much of none value. So how I'll be able to check it? Come on guys, tell me. Is any age okay? This is like okay, df dot describe you are saying. No, df dot is any you are writing a column. I basically want a code where I'll be just going to write one line of a code. Okay. So Reddy is basically saying that I basically just have to write sum in front of it. So let's just add it. So yes, these are the columns that I basically have, and right now it is showing 0000. That means there is no none value in the data frame. But the project that we'll be going to do in the last day, so at that time we'll be going to work with NaN values and we'll be even going to fill the NaN values. The certificate is valuable, Mohan Gaming, don't worry about it. Now just tell me one thing guys, this was with respect to each and every column. But what if I have to check the none value for whole data set? That in whole data set, I have 109 values, 209 values. In the whole data set, I basically want to check. So what I'll be going to do? Come on, guys. It is nothing but it is very simple. I just have to add sum also in front of it. So it will basically going to show you the whole value over here. Okay. Now we have something called a data dot describe and info. So what is basically this thing? This comes inside statistics. So right now we'll be not going to focus over here. Yes, that is also right. But why you will be just going to check one by one? That is also the main thing, no? If you'll be able, if you just have to check that in how many of your columns you basically have how many of NaN values. This is the thing that you basically have to check. Then why are we going to go with the only one column? That is also the main thing. Now, so data.describe is basically nothing. It basically shows you, let us just say if you have a numerical column, data.describe always work with numerical column only. It never work with categorical columns. Now, what is numerical and categorical columns? Just see, if I have education, okay, that is high school graduation is there, some college, some people have studied till 7th to 8th. So if values are like this in alphabets, that means it is a categorical column. And if education num, let us just say value is there 9, 10, 9, 9, 10, 4, 10. So that is a continuous value which will like going to increase. So this is known as numerical column. Okay, that is basically known as numerical column. So just see this thing over here. Right now we have age. This is also something FNL WGT. Basically, this is the combination of some columns because this is a real-time data set and it's been like compressed. So you'll be not able to get the information like the actual data that they was having. So they have just compressed this value, nothing else. Now after that, so this description basically gives us that if I have age, what is the minimum age in the data set? So the minimum age is 17. Okay, what is the age of a maximum if there is like a person? So what is the maximum age? So maximum age is 90. And if I just talk about 50%, basically means that means 50% of people have the age around 37. That consider, you can consider it as a mean. Let us just say if you'll be going to do this thing, df age dot mean. Okay, so it is showing you 38. So the same thing over here, it is showing 37. So all the values are basically nearby. Similarly, 25% of people are there in the data set which have the average age of 28. And similarly, if you'll be just going to see minimum, sorry, and if you'll be just going to look into the max one, so minimum is 16, the same thing that they have mentioned, and max is 90. So the same thing it has basically printed. All right. So these are some pre-processing with respect to the pandas. Now let us just jump to the data visualization part. Okay. Do you guys have any kind of a confusion till now? Yes, Panchal, it doesn't, it just not show you the mean. 50% is the mean that I have just shown you. It even shows the multiple things. Like what is the standard deviation, minimum, mean, max. These things are basically there. Okay. With the help of data.info, you will be able to see one thing, that which column has what kind of a data type. Let us just say we have this column that is education.num, right? But it basically have a value in numerical format. And if I just check over here, that is education.num. So it is also being mentioned as a int64. Work class is there. So we'll be just going to see what are the data types of each and every column. This is what your data.info is going to do. Pavan Kumar, don't worry, I'll be going to teach you these things. These are label encoding things, that how to convert the data into numerical format. So one by one, we'll be going to jump. Okay. Now, so what we'll be going to do, now try to understand one thing, guys. If I have a data set, all right, if I basically have a data set, so in dataset, there are two type of columns. The first one is categorical, the other one is numerical. And whenever I am talking about, I can basically say doing data visualization or using Matplotlib, using Seaborn or something else. Okay. So at that time, the data analysis for categorical values will be different and the data analysis for the numerical value will be different. It's not like that both the things are basically same, both the things are basically different over here. So first we have to do over here, first we have to convert, let us just call a data frame one, or let us just say first we have to select only categorical columns over here. So how will we going to do this thing? Df dot select D types, and we simply going to write object. That means over here we have mentioned that I only want to work with that data frames which are object. Object basically means which are not numerical. So if I'll be just going to call this df object, it will show you this. All right. Now let us just do one thing. Let us just like import something. So first we'll be going to use import c1 as SNS. So similarly like pandas, we are basically using c1 over here. Now we basically have to check one thing. Let us just say we have work class. So I want to see like I basically want to analyze one thing. This is like work class. Like some people are basically working in private, some people are working in government sector, some people are like working on a non payroll. So we basically have to check this thing. So what we'll be going to do over here, just see this thing. DF object will be going to call. That is my data frame of object one only. So what we'll be going to do, we'll be simply going to use one plot that is known as SNS dot count plot. This is the like the plot name, and I'll be just going to mention the data frame name first of all. Data frame, and the column that I'm basically looking for, that is work class. Okay. So now it is showing you this diagram. So over here it is showing. Now by looking at this diagram, what kind of insights you can give me? Data analysis, it not just about drawing something and like you'll be able to see, okay, now this is a diagram. Seaborn is nothing but it is a library like pandas. All right. Seaborn is nothing but a library like pandas. Got it? Now, what kind of information you'll be able to extract from this graph? Just tell me, guys. By just looking at this graph, what you guys are understanding? Tell me, guys, come on. Data analysis is something, with the help of data analysis, you provide insights from the data to the client. So this is nothing, this is the count of people. All right. So over here we can say in privates, there are more people who are working in private sector. Then in the second number, there are some people who are like self-employed, not INC. This is like something. Okay. And if I just talk about state government, so this is basically the count of people who are working in state government. Okay. Now just one thing. Now just see the one thing, guys. If I just talk about this code, like how I was able to know that where this code is like coming from. So just see one thing over here. If I just simply click over here in the Google, okay, and if I just simply type Seaborn count plot, and you just have to click over here. This is the Seaborn official site. Okay, this is basically what? This is your Seaborn official site over here. So if you'll be just going to scroll it down, all right. So this is the only thing that you basically have to do. Over here, let us just copy this code and let us just do one thing. Let us just try to paste it over here. So this is basically nothing. This is basically going to ask your data frame. This is your data frame, and for what column you are basically want to use it, just type this column. So it will going to show you something like this. All right, understood little bit what I'm basically trying to say over here? Understood, guys, till now? I have already mentioned this thing. It will simply going to select, just see this thing. This is your object. What if I'll be just going to do one thing? What if I just mention over here, exclude. So now when over here I have said exclude object, so it will only going to give me the int one. And over here it will going to give me the categorical one. So we are just filtering out the data, nothing else. Okay. Now, so let's just move forward. Okay, so now let's just move forward and try to understand some other things. Let's just say now if I have called it like this, I am not clearly able to read these things. Okay, so what I can basically do, and let's just say if I basically want to increase the figure size. So what I will going to do over here, let's just try to understand. That is going to be, first we'll be going to import something. So on the top of it, on the above cell only, let's just try to import some libraries. Import numpy, matplotlib, these things will be going to import. So matplotlib is again a library like a Seaborn only for visualization purpose. So some things we'll be going to see, that is plt dot figure fig size, let's just say 10,5. So now you'll be able to see that now we have basically changed the size. If I'll be just simply going to remove it and I'll be just going to run it, and now I'll be just going to run this one, so you will be clearly able to see the difference. Okay, that means it is basically giving you more readability. Yes, Pawan, we'll be going to discuss these things, don't worry. Slowly we are like covering each and everything. So this is the one thing. All right, now let us just say what I basically have to do over here. Let us just say this is your this one. All right, this is basically your again overlapping these values. So what we'll be going to do over here, we'll be simply basically going to write plt.x. The plt.x text will be going to call, and we'll be going to rotate it. Rotation is equal to 90, and let's just run it. Now just see this thing. Now you'll be clearly able to see these things, right? PLT is basically nothing. Over here, we have imported this library. Import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. This is what your PLT is. All right. Till now, do you guys have any kind of a confusion? Till now, do you guys have any kind of a confusion? Okay, sure, good. Now just tell me one thing. One thing, just try to understand. I have all of these categorical data. So what I'll be going to do now, if I have to do the same visualization with education, do I'll be just going to call this code again and again? That is not an appropriate way, right? Can we do something? Can I just mention this thing inside a loop? Inside a loop, and we'll be able to draw multiple figures. Let us try to do this one. So what I'll be just going to do, plt dot figure fixed size. Let's just say we'll be going to pick. This is like again an experimental thing that I'll be going to show you. Now for I in range lan, and let us just say we have this thing. First of all, this data set that is going to be your df object. So I basically first want a column list, all the columns that I basically have in here. So what I have to do just to get the column names, dot columns. Okay, so it will going to give me all the list. So this thing I'll be just going to mention over here. And after that, what I'll be just going to do, I'll be simply going to do plt dot subplot 5 comma 2 comma I plus 1. And after that, what I'll be going to do, I'll be going to do SNS dot count plot data. I can basically say I, and over here we'll be just going to use the I over here. Just wait for 1 second, guys. You'll be able to understand. Don't worry. And we'll be going to add plt dot title, and the title will like going to be f count plot of this thing. Now plt.xtext rotate this one, and we'll be simply going to do one thing, plt.title. And let's just try to run this one first. Okay, name data is not defined. Okay, right, because it is this one. Now what we have did, let me just try to explain you over here. Okay, right now it is basically giving us like this, but I think we need to change it, the figure size. Okay, now it is like good, it is like clear and understandable. Now let's just try to understand the code quickly. Try to focus over here, guys. So first we have set the figure size, and what we are doing, we have just mentioned a loop over here where we have mentioned for I in range len df object dot columns. That means when I have basically mentioned the len, that is going to be look like this thing. 9 is basically there, right? That means it has basically 9 columns. This is what it is trying to mention over here. 9 columns it basically have. So one by one in the I, it will be going to iterate through it. Let's just say I is basically nothing but I is your index. So whenever I'll be just going to do 2, it will going to give me that particular column name. So whenever I'm calling it like this, that particular data frame and that column number and I, that means by the help of index, we are calling that particular column. Now what is this plt.subplot? Over here I have mentioned that I want 5 rows, and in each row I want 2 columns. And I plus 1 is just for the iteration purpose, that it should go in the next line. Nothing else. Just see how many rows do I have right now in this column. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and then in each row I basically have two columns over here, 1 and 2. All right, now I have added one more thing, plt.title count plot of this thing. That means whenever it will going to iterate, let us just say whenever it going to iterate this work class, or whenever it going to iterate this education, all right, or marital status or anything, that particular name will be going to write over here. That means count plot of will be same, but we'll be just going to mention the column name over here. That is work class, education is basically there, occupation is there, marital status is there. So this thing, and x text is basically nothing, it is for the rotation, that this thing we are rotating. And what is this count plot? What is this plt.title layout? This just keep the distance between one graph to another graph. If I just simply remove it and let's just see the result, just see, don't you feel this is like overlapping on it? But whenever I'll be just going to remove this type plot and I'll be simply going to run it, now just see, there is no space, like there is a lot of space. So this is how this particular code is working, guys. All right. Any kind of a confusion till now, guys? Do you guys have any kind of a confusion till now? Yeah, please tell me. What kind of a confusion you have? What kind of a doubt you have in this code? Okay. Now let us just say this is basically the code. Now we'll be going to work with numerical data set. That is going to be this numerical data set. Okay, this was your object, but now we'll be going to work with not object type. Okay, df numerical, or I can basically say integer, and we just have to write over here exclude is equal to object. Now if I'll be just going to call this df int, okay, it is showing me these things. Now over here, if I have to print it out, let's just say I'll be just going to print the age one, just to check the age. So for that, we'll be going to use different plot, that is known as basically SNS, is basically nothing but the C1, and dist plot, this is nothing but the distribution plot, df int age. Now, how I was able to know about this one? Just see this thing. This is again a documentation of Seaborn. Now, you just have to click on these graphs. Over here, you will be able to see multiple basically graphs are there. That just a line graph are basically there. So this plot you can basically draw over here. I think there is this plot. Okay, not this one. Okay, these plots you can basically use over here. So this code is like I basically got it from the official documentation only. Yes, Raja Prabhu, I have already mentioned it, but one more time I'll be going to mention it. And if you still have confusion, you can just like watch the recording. Okay, now over here I have set a figure size that I have just mentioned you, that why we are like changing it. Now what we are doing for I in range length df object dot columns, if we are doing these things, that means we are running a for loop on this list of column. So first it will going to iterate work class, then education, then marital dot status, occupation, relationship, race, sex, and each and everything. Then after that, we have set a subplot. Subplot basically means that I have mentioned that I want 5 rows and 2 columns over here. So just see, in one row I have 2 particular diagrams. But what if I'll be just going to mention 5, 3? So in place of 2 figures, there will be 3 figures. Okay, that is the main thing. Now we are doing sns.count plot. Like this is the plot that we are doing, but we are plotting for which column. So over here, if we are doing this I, that means one by one we are iterating through these things. So we have mentioned in the data object, the data columns that we are mentioning the index over here. So one by one, it will be going to iterate through all of these columns, and it will be just going to draw this count plot. Then after that, I have basically added plt.title. You will be able to see this count plot of work class. You'll be able to see count plot of education, count plot of occupation. So from where it is coming, because inside a loop, we have mentioned it. Whenever this code is basically going to draw any kind of a graph at the same time, we'll be even going to add the title of it. That count plot of what we have mentioned, df object dot columns I. That means if it has iterated to work class, we'll be going to mention the name of that particular column, like work class. So the same thing you'll be able to see over here, count plot of work class. Then after that, plt.xticks rotate is equal to 90. So this value that you will be able to see over here, this was like horizontal previously. And because of this thing, it was like overlapping the other values. And we was basically not getting a clear understanding or a clear readability over here. So that's why we have rotated to the 90-degree, and plt.tight layout is nothing, but I basically want a gap between this diagram to this diagram. So this gap that you will be able to see, that is basically your plt.tight layout is basically doing. Yeah, notes I'll be going to share, Lone Wolf, don't worry. So I hope you guys are clear now with respect to this code. Guys, this chart is basically helping you to get the insight. Just see what kind of an insight you will be going to get from the marital status. Can I say the data set that I have, or let us just say the company for which the company I am working for? All right. So they mostly people are basically there who are married. And the second highest count of people are who never married. And there are very few peoples, okay, who basically have this count, or who are like widows, or they have like divorced, or they have like separated. So this is a valuable information that you are giving to your client. Okay, this is a very valuable information. Now just see one thing. So this is basically your distribution plot. Now what, this is like an age plot that we have plotted over here by using sns.displot. df int is basically nothing but my this name. Okay, just give me 1 second, guys. I think my system is a little bit slow. Let me just clear some tabs over here. My system is like getting little bit slow. It is like lagging over here. Till then, if you have any kind of a question, you can basically ask me, guys. Just 1 second, guys. Okay, now let's just start it. All right. So what is the information that we are getting from this age plot? Just see which age is covering more data. Just tell me one thing. By looking at this plot, what do you think? Which number is covering more data? What do you think, guys? 40? Yeah. So what is the meaning of this thing? What insight are you able to extract? Just try to do little bit focus from your end. Try to like do any kind of a prediction. Like if you are feeling something that this is there in the data set, let us just say if you are even wrong, but just at least try at least once. Try at least one. What is the meaning of this thing? If these things are having the high count, what is the meaning of this thing? Can I say the average age of people, or I can basically say the most people who I basically have in my data set, they lie between the age of somewhere around 30 to 40. So just let us just consider it as a bank data, or let us just consider it as a this thing insurance data. So if I know that my majority of the customers are from the age of 30 to 40, so whenever I'm selling something to them, I have to make sure one thing, that if their age is like between from 30 to 40, that means there are 90% chances that I'll be able to sell this particular policy to my customer. But let us just say if someone is having the age of 20, somewhere like near about 20, or let us just say 60, so it will be really hard for me to sell the policy. What do you think? Is this information like, are we able to extract some meaningful inside information from the data set or not? I have explained you this thing. Now what do you think? Whether this information is helpful or not for you? Is it a good information according to you or not? Helpful? So this is what data analysis is, guys. This is how we are extracting the data. If you want to become a data scientist, or if you want to go in a data science field, right? At that time, you have to extract the information from the data only. By doing anything, do the plotting or do the manual analysis, do anything. You have to give them insights. Now let's just say one thing. The same thing what we'll be going to do, we'll be going to do this plotting thing with respect to distribution plot that we have just used. All right, so only some things will be going to change, that in place of count plot we'll be going to just write dist plot, that is your distribution plot, and my data frame name was df int. So first I have to create, basically have to get the column names of it. So what I'll be going to do, dot columns. All right. So the same thing I'll be just going to do over here. The name of it I'll be just going to mention, and let it just execute it. Okay. So just see this thing. Now, why this graph will look like this? Why this graph look like this? Why this graph look like this? We will discuss all of these things in the tomorrow session. But this is how you basically have to draw this plot. Do you have any kind of a confusion till now, guys? Anything you basically want to understand from this particular code? Okay. If you have any confusion, just let me know. Till then, let's just discuss now what we are doing, guys. Try to understand. Right now, we are just comparing one column only. Let us just say one column, this is one column. All right. over here, like one by doing like one thing, we are comparing it. This is what, this is your one column, this is your one column. What if now I have to work with two columns? So there is again a plot for it that is known as SNS dot strip plot, where you will be basically going to mention your X and the Y. So let us just say my DF will be going to call the whole DF data set, which was basically the mix of this thing. So now I basically want to compare one thing, that is my income. All right. So I'll be just simply going to mention X is going to be my DF income, and Y will basically going to be my, let us just say, DF age. That means in the X axis, I basically want, okay, in the X axis, I want this income column, and the Y axis, I want age column. So it is basically giving me like this. Now, what is the meaning of this thing? This basically represents that the salary is less than 50K, and this basically represents the salary is greater than 50K. If I'll be able to see this dot dot dot, that means there are less people in this age. This is what, in the y-axis you have age, in the x-axis you have income. So if I just talk about y-axis and I am able to see this dot dot dot, that means there are less people, and if it is filled, that means there are more people, right? So can I say one thing over here, that if people are crossing the age of somewhere around 70, so there are less people who are earning still greater than 50K. And let's just see over here, this line is very like, there are very less people. But if I just talk about over here in less than 50K, so this is the dark line. So can I say the people who have the age of less than 25, they mostly earn less than 50K. MATLAB codes you can even write, but in data science we mostly prefer Python. You have to use this chart when you have two columns, when you want to compare any two columns. Let us say you want to compare now education. All right. Now there are very less people over here. So can I say people who have studied till 1st to 4th, they mostly earn less than 50K. There are only few people who are still earning greater than 50K. And people who have did preschool, who are in preschool, there is not even a single one who is earning greater than 50K. They are just earning less than 50K only. Okay. Understood, guys? So, like, do you have any kind of a question till now, guys? Because like this is it for today's session. The rest of the thing we'll be going to discuss in the next session. Okay, just tell me quickly if you guys have any kind of a confusion. Okay, cool, guys. So basically this is it for today's session. Rest of the thing we'll be going to cover in the next session. Tomorrow we'll be going to understand the statistics part also. Same we'll be going to see with the code. And in the last day, we'll be simply going to do a mini project. All right, guys, then this is it for today's session. Bye each and everyone, and good night, guys. Take care. Bye bye, guys.